just the owners of the land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and also want to make mention of some of the other tribes in the area, the Darug, Camaragal, also the Dharawal, and just to acknowledge all those tribal areas here as well. And obviously there's a lot of different other tribal groups that have come down to Sydney to live over the years, including the Mulrunji and Mulrunji people, and we walk amongst them every day. So I just want to start off by saying that. I myself, I'm from the Wanyi, Gadawa and Gungalita people up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. I'm from the Widderley and Mumberley clan group. My proper name is Gogarndu, and I'm from the Gamadang and Skin group, so I'm a long way from my home. And before I start, I just want to clear up one really big misconception, the misconception that I'm actually from Palm Island. And a lot of the Doomadgee people are from Palm Island. We're actually not from Palm Island. I'm from Doomadgee, which is in the Gulf country, over near the Northern Territory Queensland border. The reason there's a lot of people on Palm from Doomadgee is because of back in the days of removing people, the troubled blacks from the areas that they were in, and one of those troubled blacks that was removed from Doomadgee, from the Gungalita people, was a really strong advocate for black people's rights back in the 50s and whatnot by the name of Arthur Doomadgee. Arthur is the father of Mulrunji Doomadgee. And he was removed to Palm. And a lot of our people got removed from those areas to Cherbourg and Woorabinda and whatnot. So we've got a real big family connection all around the country. You'll find Wanyi or Gungalita or Gadawa people right down this East Coast area. So to me, being down in Sydney, it's kind of like being a long way from home. I seem to keep moving further and further south. And every time I speak to my mum, we went back home, they always ask me when I'm going to go closer to home so they can visit me, because they're bush people, they don't like city. Me personally, I suppose being asked to come along tonight and speak about my involvement with what happened on Palm Island in 2004, it was something that kind of rocked me a bit, and it was something that I suppose will forever play in my mind, and that's changed, I suppose, the course of my life in a lot of ways. For one, it was a day before my oldest son's birthday. It was my boy who turned 14 just on Tuesday, the 20th of November. It was the 19th of November 2004, and it was a day before his birthday. We were getting ready for his birthday. I got this phone call from my cousins on Palm saying, hey, you know, Mulrunji's just been killed and this has just happened, rah, rah, rah. And we were supposed to wake up the next day and celebrate my son's birthday. It wasn't going to happen. And from that time to now, I suppose, you know, there was a lot of confusion about what we should do, how we should do it, and the ladies, you know, like the brothers and sisters like Lizzie Doomadgee and Janie Doomadgee and Valmay Doomadgee, who I just saw last night at the Belvoir Street. If any of you's been to the play last night, there's a new play called Beautiful One Day that opened last night, starring Valmay Doomadgee's daughter, young Carly Doomadgee, and it'll be running at Belvoir Street for the next few weeks. So if you want to go along and see the history of Palm Island, I strongly suggest you go and see that. But there was a lot of confusion at the start of what to do, how we sort of move, and what happens next at those early stages. And obviously the riots took place, and there was a lot of sort of confusion then. And then, of course, you know, a lot of people were arrested on Palm, including Lex Watton, along with a lot of other people that were trying to fight for their rights over there. And you know, we as family members, I know myself as a family member, at that stage I was living in Brisbane. And a lot of the people in Brisbane wanted to mobilise and get ready and start protesting, do rallies. You know, Brother Sam Watson up there was a real big instigator behind that. And I was one of the family members that was in Brisbane. And you know, my sisters Valmay and Lizzie, and I'd ring them and see what was going on, what was happening, when the funeral was going to happen. It was kind of at that stage they said, you know, we need someone to be able to talk to the media, and we got Murrunji up here with us up in Townsville. My cousin Mulrunji was up there with them and sort of leading the charge up there, and he was, you know, he's a great speaker in public arena, and he was really good. He was a great advocate for our people up there. He was up there doing the marches and rallies. He said, if anything happens down there, we want you to go along and do it as well. And because at that stage, you know, I was a single dad, I was raising kids. I was thinking, how am I going to do this? You know, this is going to be hard to be out there leading the charge with my kids and stuff. So I thought, you know what, stuff it, I'll take my kids with me. So I used to take the kids to the rallies with me, and you know, friends like yourselves would come along. There was, you know, black people, there was white people. We were all walking and marching together in, you know, on Parliament House in Canberra, in Brisbane there, and making sure that they knew what was happening. And my kids came with me. You know, I got Bailey here with me tonight, just over there, and I had to bring him with me because he's doing a play at the moment up the road. So he come down and said, mate, we're going to go to a rally. I said, yeah, well, I'm coming, because they're the future, and I suppose you got to make sure you pass on that history and that knowledge about what we're fighting for and what we're fighting against. Don't get me wrong, There's a lot of good people out there, both white and black, and there's a lot of bad people out there, both white and black as well. And same way with coppers. Let me just state this first. There are also good coppers out there doing the right thing and that are fighting for us. There are coppers out there that are protecting us from the bad elements in this society. So they're not all, let's not all paint them with the same brush, because, you know, we become hypocrites just like them. So I always tend to try and find the best in people and look at the good in people, and I suppose it's a hard thing coming from me, considering some of the stuff that's going on with Mulrunji's death and I suppose what he's been through, and what we've been through as well. You know, it was really good to see a lot of Palm Island mob there at the play last night and to see what they were doing, and the fact that that play is now going to open people's eyes to the history of what Palm Island is about. My personal sort of, I suppose, interaction with Chris Hurley over the years of, I tell you what, before the Palm Island incident, he was based in Burketown, he was based in Doomadgee, he was based through that Gulf country, so we know what sort of man he was prior to him going to Palm Island. All that evidence that happened before he went to Palm was not allowed to be used when he went to court. And we all know he lied. It's pretty obvious, it is blatantly that he lied in court, and you know, the simple fact that where he said he's falling on a lino and he didn't fall on top of him, but then the evidence, you know, we all know what it is. We all know what happened. I just wanted to tell you tonight that the reason I speak out and keep speaking for what was right for my family and our people as a whole is that because if we don't do it, if someone else doesn't do it, you know, no one will. You know, one of the worst things is that when good people sit and do nothing and say nothing. So my journey up until this point has been always to try and, you know, do the right thing by our people, do the right thing by our mob, always talk up for what's right. You know, I know Uncle Ray, he always is in the community here in Redfern and watching him lead the marches for, you know, young TJ and whatnot. And there's a lot of stuff that happens here in Redfern that sort of is on a national scale as well. And these meetings here, believe it or not, they make a difference out there. When I go back to the communities, people are asking what's happening down in the cities, what people are doing. But this is what you're doing. You're getting together. We need you more than ever now because, you know, Doomadgee Briscoe is just part, you know, that's still happening. That's still going up in Alice Springs. Black deaths in custody, for some reason, is still happening. And it's still happening because the people that are responsible for these deaths have not paid for their debts yet. No justice has been brought forward. You know, I believe spiritually, me personally, that, you know, my cousin Mulrunji Doomadgee, his spirit won't rest properly until someone pays for what is done. It's our way as Aboriginal people, you know, to make sure that we hold the ones accountable and responsible for that death, whether it's through payback, whether it's through whatever. Someone has to be held responsible, and that hasn't happened for him. And we all know that there has not yet been a black death in custody where someone's been either, I suppose, well, we know that Chris Hurley was charged, but he got off. No one's ever been convicted, ever. And Australia has a long history of covering up police brutality, especially against Aboriginal people, especially against the native people of this country. It seems to be the norm to treat Aboriginal people the way they do. You know, just the other week when we saw the stuff about the young fellow being tasered here in the streets by the cops, that was disgusting. I couldn't feel more disgusted about what happened to that young man. To have these coppers all literally standing around tasing him and doing it over and over and over again. But then I always go back to the thing, I think to myself, and unfortunately that's just the way I think these days. I wonder if they would have got that much press if that was a black man. I'm just saying that because that's what happens. You know, Doomadgee Briscoe was killed, you know, he was bashed by 5 coppers up there in Alice Springs. It didn't get the national coverage that it deserved. You know, Mr. Ward down in Western Australia, that happened. It's still going on. There was a 14-year-old boy just last week up the coast here somewhere, and we all know about that. That got tasered by a copper and bashed up and then held in custody for, you know, and this kid was crying for like half an hour while they had the tasers on him. So until we get the word out and get it reported properly in mainstream media, which I know we're all fighting for that, we're all fighting against that, but it's you guys' voices that help us make that happen. You know, we can all run around and scream and yell as loud as we can, but unless we got our friends beside us coming with us and fighting for the right cause and fighting for the struggle, we ain't going to get anywhere. So, you know, it's been a long struggle and it's been a long fight. It's been going on for such a long time, but and it's going to continue to go on. You know, we're going to sit here and we're going to get up tomorrow and say, okay, well, what's the answer? How do we change? How do we change the system? How do we fight against the system? I don't really have that answer, unfortunately. It's up to us to come up with some kind of answer. It's up to us to sort of be consistent in what we're doing, to always be upfront and always be out there on the lines and supporting each other. You know, there are times when I shake my head when I turn up to rallies or to marches or something and there's only 3 or 4 people there. That's where it comes from, building up momentum and building up such a following that everybody jumps on board and fights this cause that means something to somebody. We need to find a human connection between each other to make sure that we feel not just a sympathy, but the struggle and the cause and what it means. You know, that's lost. People are looking for a cause these days. People are looking for spirituality these days. You know, I see people running around wanting to go to India, wanting to go and, you know, become this or that, looking for that spiritual connection. Let me tell you, Aboriginal people are the most spiritual people in this world. If you want real spirituality, come and see us. You know, there's not a greater thing I've ever heard than this saying. You know, religion, that's for men who are afraid of hell. You know, spirituality, that's for people who've been there. And we've been there. Aboriginal people have been in hell. We know what it's like there. That's why we believe in our spirituality. Me, when I go home amongst my people, when I'm there on the ground doing corroboree, doing dance, doing ceremony, what that means to makes me who I am, that gives me the strength and the belief in my people and my cultural being. You know, the Budjimali is where I believe I come from, and I will go back to that. You know, I will go back onto the wings of the Lidagi. Lidagi is my dream, and that's the black cockatoo. So when I go home, I will fly on the wings of black cockatoo. That's where I'm going to go, and that's my spirituality. But because I'm safe in the knowledge of where I come from, what I'm about, what I represent, I'm strong enough to stand up and speak for myself and speak for my people on a level where I suppose it's hard for our mob to do sometimes. And you know, a lot of our people sometimes get, I suppose, railroad or sidetracked through intellectual means by the law and by the courts and by, I suppose, the police sort of paperwork. You know, sometimes people agree to things that they don't know what it is. You'll get fellas that turn up to court one day and they say they're guilty when they're not. You know, there's a brother that got locked up back in the 80s in Stewart Creek Prison up in Townsville for murdering a young girl from Doomadgee in the creeks of Mount Isa up there in Isa. I don't know if you might know where that is, but this fella spent almost 20 years in jail before they finally realised on the night when that girl was murdered. He was a Doomadgee man too. I think his name was what was it? I'll think of it in a minute. But after about 20 years, they finally realised, the police, that on the night she was murdered, he was locked up in jail. He was in the police watch house in Mount Isa while this Aboriginal girl was getting murdered in the riverbeds. He spent almost 20 years in jail up in Stewart Creek. He came out, I think, might have been 1990 or 2000, something like that. Finally came out of jail, and he was a broken man after that. So, you know, we don't want more of the brothers and sisters that are locked up on false pretenses to be in there. You know, we want to help. And I'm here because if I can give back in any way, just by being here, having my presence here, or saying something that is going to mean something, that's what I want to do. So I'm here to do that. And I'm also happy to be here with Uncle Ray, who I think Ray is one of the men that just is the soul of the earth. And you know, the reason for a lot of us that get up and speak and say something is because you always see, you know, our elders like him up the front leading the charge. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm really honoured.
Slow charge.
Thanks for having me.